Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be taking a look at February's exceptional story, A Deadly Custard. And we've received an invitation to bake. They say baking is a science, but winning a baking contest is an art. A scant few hours ago, you discovered in your pocket, amongst all the familiar, well-worn detritus, a piece of paper you did not recognize. Thick paper. Expensive paper. It is an invitation to a contest. A baking contest. Addressed to a perfect stranger. Is that you? The date is for today. The time, this afternoon. How in the world did you come by this? And more importantly, do you intend to attend? I think we have to read over it again. What did it say? Something about baking? Read carefully. They say baking is a science, but winning a baking contest is art. We have chosen you as an artist of the highest caliber for the honor of competing. Come to the market at 3 o'clock to accept the invite. We shall proceed from there. Yours in trust, Lady Pockets. One does not often get invitations addressed to a perfect stranger. It rather defeats the purpose of targeted invitations in the first place. Intriguing. So we have two options. We can go early, hide and watch. Punctuality is a virtue. Besides, maybe you can find out if it's a trap. Or we can search for clues. Perhaps there's something in the letter that could tell you what to expect. Search for clues. You employ every method you know for revealing hidden information. Eating a page over a candle to reveal invisible ink. Reading the first letter of every sentence. Even slightly dampening the paper itself. It's only when you place the letter down in an errant ray of false starlight that you notice a faint shimmering on the surface, revealing two words written in some kind of near-invisible, pearlescent ink. There is an ink beneath the ink, and it burrows like fingers into your skull. This ink has traces of violet. Someone has gone to great lengths to lure this perfect stranger to their event. Who uses spycraft in a baking competition? There's no way this is going to be fun, is it? Oh well, let's go early and hide. You triple check the invitation for the address, discovering a curious addendum. Knowledge is victory's reward. Disqualification is the price of failure. There are no second chances but this one. You arrive early, and the square is empty. A surprise at peak market times, and suspicious. You hang back in a shadowy alley and watch like a hunter. Rather than anything sinister, you instead witness two figures walking towards a red tent in the center of the square. One of the two men is tall, lanky, and immaculately dressed in black and white. He has the kind of ramrod straight posture that identifies him as someone either important or well versed in etiquette and spine maintenance. The second is much squatter, but just as immaculately dressed. He tries to keep pace with the tall man by way of a seesaw waddle, legs bowed as if from a childhood bout of rickets. They disappear into the red tent together. People are filtering in, and the crowd is growing larger. At exactly 3 o'clock, you hear the bells of All Christs chiming the hour. The entrance to the red tent opens up like theatre curtains parting. The crowd forms a line as to head through the tent flaps. Crowd is the correct descriptor for a group of 6. Yes? So we can either follow the crowd. Seems to be the done thing in this situation, no? We can wait and watch. The phrase like lambs to the slaughter enters your mind, perhaps you should hold back just a little. Or we can ask someone what to do. These people seem to know what's going on. Maybe they can help. Let's just follow the crowd. Let's blend in. A maxim of your aunt's comes to mind. If someone jumped off a bridge, would you follow them? Well, perhaps. Perhaps the jumpers know something you don't. There may even be a good reason for it, and you don't want to get left behind, do you? Into the tent you go then. Oh, apparently it's rather dark. You can hear the susurrations of people in the darkness, getting further away. You follow the sound, down what seems like a long, thin, and incredibly dark corridor. Your hands brush the fabric on either side of you. We can search for a seam of fabric. This corridor is ridiculously long. There has to be a seam or an edge that you can use to escape. We can turn back. This is a terrible idea. And you were right to be cautious, or we can just keep going. Is that a light at the end of the tunnel? Oh, that has to be a good thing. Let's search for a seam. You manage to find a seam, vertical along the fabric wall, and tug at it, making a tear. But behind the fabric is naught but a wall of brick, which is much harder to tear. You follow the fabric down to the floor, searching for an edge, but discover that the fabric is a tube, like a large sock tunnel lining another, sturdier brick tunnel. Someone has gone to some lengths to disorient would-be competitors. Yet, there in the shadows, someone is making free with a pair of scissors, a person in a well-fitting, though antiquated suit. They wear a half-cape, as if affecting nobility. They are busy forcing an exit out of this eternal tent using what appears to be a bread knife. They catch sight of you, and their long-lashed eyes convey a plea. Do not reveal that I have done this. Intrigue already, and you're barely through the tent flap. Let's keep going, shall we? You have no time to respond before a voice emerges from somewhere in the dark. A hole! A gap, and no time to adjust before the contest. Calamity and calamity. Turning back to the hole, you find that the handsome stranger has made themselves scarce. You remain alone to face the accusatory voice, which presumably belongs to the accusatory face. Another voice, slightly lower in pitch and origin, follows. Oh, what a terrible day we're having. But I think I have spied the culprit. Though I can tattle. Immediately, without hesitation, revel in the rare occasion when something is emphatically and categorically not your fault. Or we can just take responsibility. Perhaps a good turn will eventually merit another. Let's take responsibility. We did pull at the seam. The voices confer, evidently put out. They never quite step far enough forwards to be visible. Well, naturally, we don't condone cheating or tampering, but... The other, lower voice, speaks. There is a measure of dislike growing in the voice. Just be sure to play fair during the competition, and we'll forget this happened. The voices disappear, still chattering. You are left alone to stumble your way towards the light, inch by inch. Gradually you emerge into a large, white marquee tent filled with the small crowd of people from outside. Individuals stand alone, none move to converse with each other. Everybody else here seems to know what's going on, some grim with determination, others smiling in a knowing way that says this was not a surprise to them. All of your fellow competitors, when they look at you, look surprised, and then suspicious. Maybe you can introduce yourself and get more clues. Or find out who to blame for this quasi-kidnapping, perhaps. Ooh, look at all these people. Well, let's start at the top and work our way down. The shifty-looking young woman with the miniature spectacles. Those ludicrously tiny glasses hide a myriad of secrets. You just know it. Hopefully, one of those secrets reveals what's going on. You mean the tent? He looks a little irritated, but you shape your face into a visage of such pitiable confusion that her expression softens slightly. This competition is the board upon which we are playing. Honestly, the state of the opposition these days. Okay. What about the man with the suspicious mustache? That is the face of a man who knows things. No one grows facial hair like that, unless they're telegraphing how dastardly they are. Let's talk to him. Help you? He looks affronted that you would even deign to talk to him, but nevertheless checks his watch, rolls his eyes, and speaks with an accent of one of the smaller countries of the Mediterranean. Oh God. What kind of accent is that? I'm just going to read his voice like normal. I don't know exactly what you require, but I doubt there's much I can do to aid your... He pauses and looks you over disdainfully. That is to say, I cannot help the likes of you. Just wait until the two butlers arrive. They'll explain the terms of this particular competition. He turns to look at the front of the tent, and turns back to you once more. And please, don't bother talking to me again. Fraternization won't help you win. You win what? A baking competition? And we have the old man that looks like he's hiding something. So nervous, old man. Something to hide? Like kidnapping someone with the help of multiple confusing tents? Are you asking me? The man sighs. If you don't know, you shouldn't be here. Who do you even represent? He hobbles up to you and grabs you by the arm, either to steady himself or to vaguely imply a threat should you take advantage of his, kindness again. I'll only tell you one thing. I'm winning a prize. I won't let her make a fool of me again. Now push off. Okay. Now we do have the stranger, but let's talk to the deviless in the yellow dress first. He carries a set of rolling pins and is thumbing through a cookbook written in one of the dancing alphabets of hell. It's rather more whimsical than usual, he makes a face, but I assure you the stakes are very real. It doesn't advantage me to help you, I'm afraid. Don't worry, you're unlikely to win, and we'll get what we should have already won. One of us. Anyway. Well, let's introduce ourselves. The person cut up the tent, leaving you to deal with the aftermath. A fellow competitor? Yeah, I know who you are. The stranger does not even turn to you. Their eyes are fixed on the other end of the tent. We're here to compete. You're one of the competitors, and you're not in danger. They pause. Not immediately, anyway. I don't think. The others will have it worse. They turn their face to you. Body unmoving, arms crossed, hood pulled over their forehead to cover their eyes in shadow. Don't worry, it'll all be explained by the end. I intend to make sure of that. Any further questions are forestalled by the flaps at the other end of the tent opening. Two men step out of the darkness. Okay, let's wait for the contest to begin. It seems you've entered, or been entered, at any rate. Still, a baking contest. What could go wrong? So many things could go wrong. These two men, dressed to the nines in black waistcoats, pressed trousers and a crisp white shirt, are a somewhat comical pair. One tall, one short, one serious, and one decidedly less so. They beckon the assembled contestants forward, and as they do, you recognize the voices. These are the men you followed into the tent, and the same two that caught you at the scene of the stranger's crime. Examine the tall one. The tall one is standing still, ignoring his companion. My name is Forsyth. I shall be one of your two hosts for this prestigious baking competition. Other competitors smirk, as Forsyth has made a joke. I am, of course, the appointed representative and loyal servant of the Lady Pockets. Is it your imagination, or is that derision in his voice when he mentions his mistress? My companion here, he gestures to the short, wiggling man, is Beats a Carpet, my fellow butler, who will be the one other host. Beats a Carpet? Forsyth and Beats a Carpet, what fantastic names. The short one is wearing an expression of glee and bouncing on his toes in excitement. The tall man places a gentle hand on the shoulder of the short man. Please, Beats a Carpet. I know you're excited, but would you mind staying still while we introduce ourselves to the participants? The shorter man beams up at him. I'm just excited, Forsy. Forsyth winces. It is clear which of the two is the whimsical one. And look at this crowd! He turns to gesture at the gathered group. His grin almost casts a great ray of light in your direction. So good to see everybody gathered in one place, don't you think? A beat of silence passes. The competitors shift uncomfortably. The shorter man nods and ceases his bouncing. Mostly. There's still a discernible jiggle in his body, and a barely suppressed smile threatens to breach containment. Let's see if we can remember where we've seen them before. When have you seen these servants before? Have you seen them before? There's certainly something recognizable. You have to move them around in your mind's eye until they fit the missing space. It helps to adjust their livery. You've seen them, or men similar, prowling about the side streets. Major domos of the bazaar, skulking factorums of the masters. The most significant, but something between an auditor and a gervais. Discreet, all-purpose, sinister. What on earth are they doing running a baking competition? Well, let's let them continue. Forsyth clears his throat. And of course, there is a reward should you win the competition. A reward? Beats a Carpet looks around the room in excitement. Oh, look at your faces! I'm thrilled for you all. Just thrilled. This time around, dear contestants, you are playing the game for a prize you all know very well. Forsyth begins to speak, but Beats a Carpet turns to him. Don't ruin this for me, Forsy. You said we would do this properly. The other contestants roll their eyes. Many here seem to agree with Forsyth, who looks rather less enthusiastic about this whole endeavour. Only you are left out. Very rude. You and perhaps the caped stranger who looks around your competitors with concern. You are once more left in the dark, as though you had never left the red tent at all. As I said, should you win, you'll receive a grand prize, all that Lady Pockets has left to give. A round of wry chuckles from the room. As in our greater games, only one player can truly win. Isn't this much more fun than an auction? The butler Forsyth sighs. Yes, yes. So, those are the stakes. Let's get this over. Let's begin. Alright, let's listen to a question from the crowd. And what if we should lose? Asks the woman in tiny spectacles. Beats a Carpet takes the question. This competition is one of great secrecy, he says solemnly. Only those in the know are allowed to stay in the know. And those who lose, we employ particular measures. Kinder than the usual, I assure you. But if you wish to see this through, we advise winning. So bake well. The gentleman with the moustache and the obscure accent protests. What of the riffraff? He says. He doesn't gesture, but everyone turns to look at you and the stranger, masked, their hood pulled low, lurking unobtrusively at the back. I do not recognize these players. Do not try to out-scheme us. We forgive your exuberance, our Colomanian friend, Forsyth sneers. Let me only say that you are all necessary ingredients, so if you wish to have your cake, you'll have to eat it, lumps and all. Forsyth slowly looks over the crowd. There will be 5 rounds, each one ending in elimination of a baker, until we end up with a single winner. The first round will begin once you have all taken your place at one of the kitchens in this room. He delivers all this in one breath, impatient to be done with it. Beats a carpet, rubs his hands together. Oh dear bakers, this first round will challenge you to make a blancmange. You will use the ingredients provided to you, and place your finished delights upon the presentation table for judging. Okay, let's examine our station. You take your place in the middle of the tent. All the kitchen stations are the same, but what do you have to work with? Every station in the tent appears to have been furnished with simple tools and appliances. A simple stove, a sharp knife, a copper kettle, and several spoons, enamel dishes, and earthenware bowls. Upon each kitchen counter in the tent are several jars, ranging from small to large, filled with ingredients both recognizable and barely identifiable as food. And one final thing, a mound of shapes, covered concerningly with a white cloth. No time to investigate. Behind the butlers twain, a woman parts the curtains. She is short and portly, with rosy cheeks and a smile that shows off rows of tiny, gummy teeth. Her dress is a voluptuous dome of chintz, laced with frills and sashes, and a tiny pink hat with a large ostrich feather teeters on the corner of her head. Hello, honoured competitors, she says, beaming around the room. 'Tis I, the Lady Pockets. Forsyth and Beats a Carpet step and bounce aside respectively, to give Lady Pockets the floor. Oh, you must be wondering what you're all doing here. Her accent is half clipped, consonants and half rugged, round vowels, an incomplete mimicry of aristocratic tones. Everybody, bar perhaps you and the stranger, is staring at her with barely concealed emotion. The faces here converge on a theme: anger, frustration, desire, resentment. If she notices, she doesn't show it. Well, trails off as if chasing after a fleeing memory. Why are they here? Forsyth steps to her elbow and whispers something in her ear. She rallies slightly, although the distant look remains. Oh yes, to make the blancmange, because that's what I want. Forsyth whispers again, because that's what I want. To judge. I'll judge the best. Okay, this is a bit weird. Let's examine Lady Pockets. Who is this chiffon and lace confection? Why does she look so out of place? She seems familiar. Have you seen her before too? A fragment rises, a glimpse of the bizarre side streets, and a harried figure carrying a basket, proceeding glumly towards those knobbled spires. You reach for more. There's nothing beyond the image. You'll have 1 hour to complete your confections, Beats a Carpet informs the small crowd. He looks towards Forsyth, and with a clearly rehearsed flourish, they speak in unison. Go! Your fellow bakers remove the white cloths covering the mound on their stations, and you do the same. Revealed before you, a gaggle of dubious jars. Let's examine said dubious jars, shall we? What do you have to work with here? You find a small clay pot filled with something that smells like duck fat. A large, black-lidded jar of dried-out chicken bones. A bowl of wet moss. The usual ingredients of flour, milk, eggs, sugar and butter. If it doesn't seem quite right, then it's not entirely incorrect either. You have your ingredients. You have your task. Produce a blancmange. One question remains. Are you entirely sure what a blancmange is? In reality, no. Let's hope my in-game character is a little more educated than I. It would help you to know what you're supposed to be making. Blancmange is, well, blancmange. You recall it from some party. Somewhere. It's an opaque sort of jelly. A milky white mound that wobbles ominously and tastes like barely anything. More of a sensory treat, perhaps. Not much actual baking involved either. Okay, so we've eaten blancmange before and recall enough of the experience to help. Fantastic. Well, there's nothing for it. Your rivals are hard at work performing bakery upon their ingredients. It's time you got started. Begin the blancmange. Time to give this wobbly waste of ingredients a go. You trust in your recollections and get to work. You add milk, cream and sugar to the bowl, along with the moss, which thickens the mixture as well as turning it a pale shade of brackish green. Whipping the swampy, frothy mixture, you then pour it into a decorative mould and let it set before tipping it out onto a plate. It wobbles and jiggles ominously, like something that just fell out of a blocked pipe. No matter. If the world is just, you won't be the one taste testing it. Your creation wobbles in the mould. The tent buzzes with competitors making final tweaks and adjustments. Are any of these blancmanges? It doesn't matter. Time runs short. Let's put our utensils down. Time is up. In one way or another, your blancmange is done. Fascinating. You place it reverently upon the judging table. The Lady Pockets walks back and forth between all the offerings, tasting each and giving her verdict. Finally, she comes to yours and takes a large spoonful. She moves the morsel around in her mouth. So silky smooth and yet so gelatinous, clever to use the moss as a thickening agent. Very clever. She smiles and nods at you. It seems you have passed this first test. Lady Pockets returns to another one of the bakers, the woman with spectacles. Yours was the worst, dear. Please leave the tent. My men will escort you out to the, For a moment, her memory fails her. To the Chamber of Soothing. That's right. You'll forget the horror of defeat, my dear. She smiles. Better to be without it, I say. Looks confused for a moment. Or is it? Like a hole in my head. The butlers look concerned, but Lady Pockets recovers herself with a dazzling smile. The competitor is led away. The sinisterly named Chamber of Soothing appears to be back in the direction of the first red tent. Surely the bespectacled competitor will be out soon enough, clutching a consolation pasty. As the loser of round 1, the shifty-looking woman in spectacles is escorted from the tent. You and your fellow bakers are ushered into another yet smaller tent. This, it seems, is where you're supposed to wait for round 2 to begin. Your confection scraped through the first round. The stranger, on the other hand, lurks in the corner. The round 1 winner's rosette pinned to their cloak. Do we want to sit quietly in the corner? You're not here to make friends, are you? It'll only make winning harder. Or we can attempt to make friends. You survey your fellow baking contestants. Most cross their arms and look elsewhere. A universal go away. All except one. Let's try and make friends. The stranger approaches you, nods, begin to speak in a whisper. You were lucky to make it through round 1, but round 2 will require more cunning. Take my advice. You will need a weapon for what's about to come. Does the prospect of losing not concern them? The gentleman with the surface accent breaks into your conversation, shaking his head. I will not lose again, so why should I be concerned? The prize? He blanches. Bally, forget what we're supposed to say and not say here. He examines you curiously. Hope I've not spoiled the pudding. The stranger raises an eyebrow at the gentleman and skulks off to the other side of the tent. The gentleman with the surface accent squints at them. Seems familiar to me, somehow. Maybe it's just the hood. See a lot of shifty folk in our line of work. The stranger keeps their gaze on you through the break. They said you'd need a weapon for what comes next. A hint? A threat? You appear to be uniquely in the dark among the competitors, but the stranger is clearly here with an agenda. Their stunt with the scissors proved that. The question, therefore, is whether their motivations align with yours. You can bring a kosh. It can't hurt to prepare yourself for any outcome, and to find a weapon. Or we can disregard his warning. Pick up a weapon. What's next? Use it? Now let's take a kosh with us. Let's look around the tent. You spy a hollow metal pole leaning up against one of the canvas walls, presumably a part of the tent. But it'll do as a weapon. You hope? Or just hide it up our sleeve or something. It'll be fine. This temporary cessation of baking hostilities continues. Refreshments are provided, but no one can stomach a cake. The competitors watch each other like veterans of the campaign of '68 across a trench. In a dearth of conversation, it is only natural for one's eye to wander. But where does yours go? We can look towards the chamber of soothing, the exit ostensibly, the exit through which only losers will leave. Or we can feel under the seat for something hard below the cushion. See what this is. You reach inside. Something hard-edged, rectangular. A book. Tugging it out, you find yourself clutching Persephone's Pocket's Cookbook for those above their station. Leafing through the pages, you discover a variety of bizarrine recipes modified to suit surface tastes. Or perhaps the other way round. Glance about. No one is looking your way. Did someone leave this here for you to find? Surely such an item yields a competitive advantage, and in so closely curtail the contest, nothing surely has been left to chance. Let's look towards the chamber of soothing. It is empty, though it bulges slightly more than you recall. No one goes in or out, but there is a distinctive chemical smell, and more than a few curious carts left outside. What a shimmer of glass. Vials, pipettes, and there, on one, the mark of Mr. Fires. And, helpfully, no one has yet fixed that one open seam cut by the stranger tucked away to the side of the chamber. That might come in handy. But not now. The strident tones of beat carpet approach. Better return to the waiting room. Well, waiting tent. But before we continue into the second round here, I think I'm going to end the first episode here. We shall continue with this rather bizarre baking competition in the next episode. So thank you all very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated, and it does help spread these videos to people who might enjoy them. Thank you again to the members of the channel and the coffee supporters. It really does mean the world to me. And as always, we'll see you next time.